Good afternoon, everyone. As always, just give us a hot second to get ourselves on Facebook here, and we will get ourselves going. Really excited about what we're talking about today, and we'll as soon as we get our presenters on, we'll start to walk through. But we got Kevin and Kyle Smith, brothers, the tag team, who are going to come on and talk to us about some of the things that they're working on, some of the best practices that you guys need to be thinking about. So just give us one hot second here and we will get ourselves going. Okay, looks like we're live on Facebook. So Kevin, Kyle, and Julie also on the line with Julie Headley from our office, who leads our events. We wanted to bring her on as well to talk about just some things that she's working on and have some good dialogue. So the two folks that we have on here today, we've got Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, the director of the TCU Sales Center, formerly worked with Fox Sports, Arnold Palmer, P.F. Chang's got a great resume there. And then his brother, like I said, Kyle, who's with PwC right now, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And so business development lead there. And he's been working with broadcast.com and then also Yahoo. So tremendous amount of experience and background here. So really excited to hear what these guys say. And like I said, Julie from our team at the Chamber, who's here, who's our VP of events, wanted to bring her in just to talk about some of the different things that she's working on as well. So I think we're having a great dialogue today. So with that, Kevin, Kyle, I'll turn it over to you guys and let you go for it.
Chris, thank you very much. And again, there's no turning it over just yet. You know, you're on vacation, but you can't get away. So you're in Florida right now. And, you know, a couple of questions for you as we kind of what's working, because that's going to be the theme throughout the whole day as we go forward. And one of the things that I want to compliment that, again, as sales professionals, as business leaders, through this time, it's been hard to get away. You know, you think about it and just being able to spend time with our family. Julie, I know you just came from some vacation, Chris as well. So Chris, my question to you real quickly is, who's won the very first Strayer Cannonball competition at your house? You're down in Florida. So between you and your kids, who's won the cannonball contest first? I'm curious on that.
I have yet to be in the pool yet. We got it last night. And okay. So everybody knows, and I'm not afraid to say it, we canceled this trip 3 times. I'm in my parents' house right now. They're down in Florida, as a lot of you know. I'm from Ohio originally, and so when I moved to Texas, my parents moved to Florida permanently, and so we're down here. Supposed to go down here for spring break. That got canceled. Was supposed to be down here later in the spring. That got canceled. My kids started to think I was lying to them, like we're never going to see grandma again, and so here yesterday about 4 o'clock, pulled in and been hanging out with mom and dad, and so it's been great. Got some pictures over here that my mom would love to sell to you. It's her painting. That's her hobby now. But yeah, no, it's been great. And so later tonight, I'm sure there's going to be a cannonball competition in the pool. So I'll be in there without a doubt.
Just text us the results. That's all we want to know. So that's some good stuff. Hey, Julie, you took some vacation as well, but, thanks for just calling us before you went to vacation to get us teed up on this one. And, some of the things what's working for the Chamber, these online sessions that are going on. Why is this the right solution? I mean, how are you guys measuring it? How is it advancing the business of the Chamber and the membership that everyone's a little better because of it? I'm just curious.
Sure. So we started these even before people went remote, and the information we were sharing was extremely relevant. Chris, was it mid-March that we started the series?
It was right at the beginning. We started planning these things in early March, but I think it was like the second week of March we really launched these. Yeah.
And
they were kind of triage at the front there because of everything going on.
They were. I mean, we had stuff every day that we could host a webinar and people were just needing that information. It was just,
Sure.
it was our way of pivoting to really help the times. And we talked about SBA loans. We talked about how to manage remotely. And so it was something that we could offer our membership, and we're still seeing no one knows what tomorrow is going to bring. And so all of our series are really geared towards this time and how do we help businesses.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you're helping them a little bit with the, we need more businesses to Fort Worth, Tarrant County. And Chris, sounds like since March, you guys have been busy despite the times. What, 65, what do you call them, RFIs, requests for information about our city? I mean, how are you pulling that off? Again, everyone's quiet. How are we as a city being able to work through that? I'm just curious real quick.
Yeah, I mean, look at the economy, you look at the nation, you look at all the
Yep.
job loss and things like that. A lot of that has been around the restaurants and the retail sector, and those part-time jobs and things like that. So we're doing everything we can to support those groups. Like Julie said, some of these sessions that we've been doing since early March have been directly, geared towards the conversations we've had with some of those business members that have said, well, this is our problem, this is our problem. So how can we provide resources to those groups? So we've been doing that. But from an economic development standpoint, which is the effort that I lead, we've never stopped. We average 70 maybe RFIs a year, and that's a request for information, request for proposal. So we'll put in a spreadsheet, whether it's from a company directly, whether it's from a consultant representing that company, and then really it's just a spreadsheet. Okay, you tell us about all of the real estate that is available that we need for our industrial product or our data center or our office space. And then we need to know what the workforce is, what the labor rates are, what are the educational opportunities, what are the graduation rates, all of those things.
Yep.
And since call it March 1, since this whole thing kind of started, at least started for the state of Texas and Fort Worth, we've had, 65 come in. I'll give you an example. On Monday, 4. We had 4 come in on Monday. And so those 4 RFIs are due back to the client, consultant, or the company direct by Thursday or Friday. And we don't get a whole lot of time to turn these things around. And so we're getting so much activity right now that, it's great to see that so many companies are interested in looking at Texas for some kind of investment and some kind of job creation opportunity. But talking with my colleagues, my peers across the country, talking with the site consultants across the country, a lot of folks, they can't travel. And if you look at it in stages, company makes the decision to do something, you got to do a ton of research, you make some site visits, you do some more research based upon those site visits, you shortlist it down, you make some more site visits. And so that middle part has been shrunk. And now we have companies who are just saying, I can't travel, I can't get on a plane and go to Fort Worth, Nashville, Denver, where I'm looking to do these projects. So I'm going to send some complex RFIs to understand taxation, labor, availability, how is COVID affecting you, what are you doing? And so then they can just sit there in their office and boil all of it down. So when their companies get ready to allow them to travel again, then instead of saying, okay, we're going to take 3 weeks and we're going to visit 6 states, we're going to take 2 weeks and we're going to visit 3 states, and do it that way. So it's been an extremely busy time for us. It really has, which is fantastic for us because we're getting so many looks from so many domestic and international companies. It's a great thing for us. I can't say that same thing for a lot of my peers around the country. So we are really sitting in a great position to have so many companies wanting to get information and analyze us on that level for potential visits later in the year or first quarter of next year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we've got some probably stats that'll support that as well as we go forward. So we're going to get going here if we will. So Chris, I'll let you get back, maybe not put your feet up too much, but stay engaged. Julie's going to be taking some Q&A. down at the bottom if you've got some questions. We're going to take it through. Instead of waiting till the end, it's better if you kind of go along the way. So we'll probably take a break here, 5 or 10 minutes, answer any questions and make sure we're heading down the right direction as we go forward. We're going to talk about 5 really key strategies that we're seeing in the marketplace that make a difference as we go forward and what that means. So again, we'll jump in, kind of set the tone, get you to those 5 and really kind of dig deep if we can, so that today you can walk away with something and take back and start using tomorrow, or at least thinking about it. How are we applying these? How are we not applying these as we go forward? So again, Julie, thanks for being there for us on that one. And Kyle, hello, my brother. How are you? Welcome.
Mr. Smith, how are you?
Good to have you as we go forward. All right, we're going to jump in. Let me share the screen and we'll kind of get into this. And I think Chris set us up pretty well, Kyle, for a number of things. In fact, I'm going to jump us straight to, probably slide number 3 here as we go forward. Let me get us on full mode there. Again, boy, Fort Worth, that's a good story, because Fort Worth needs really an economic base from a business perspective. But really, we're blessed here in Texas, North Texas, across the board. And the reason I got Kyle involved is, again, Kyle is a part of a business development team, and PwC, they touch probably every Fortune 500 company at some point. They're really involved on the front end. So can he focus on really maybe the macro, and then how do I bring it down to our community here in Fort Worth and Tarrant County, hence the, the Fort hat. Let's represent well within that and do it that way. So that's the kind of way we do it, or want to today. So Kyle, obviously stronger economy here in this market, great things. What's anything tidbits you've got for us on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think the strength comes through its diversity. So if you look at areas around the country, we're right up there at the top in most Fortune 500 companies, but it's the quality of some of those companies and the breadth of the industries that we represent. If you just look at across, I mean, even the relocations as of late, Chris talking about companies looking to come in, we're not talking small companies. We're talking Toyota coming to town. We're talking McKesson, in that particular industry set. Cormark, even Charles Schwab being a financial services giant moving in from Northern California. So not only is it an attractive area, it's been growing for the last decade. I think with everything going on, there's nothing that would lead you to believe that it's not going to even accelerate from here. Just with the business climate that we have, the stability, you look at reasons why we're growing so much. It's the tax, it's a regulatory environment. There was an interesting conversation about a company moving from Seattle, Kevin. You and I talked about it. Just quality of life type of change, value-based changes. So again, we offer a little bit of something. And the cool thing about my world is that I get to see all these companies, and you start to see that they mirror off each other. The more that come in, the more that want to come in. So it really gives people in town opportunities to go to different companies and to grow in their careers, which creates a talent base that's really attractive to folks coming in. So, it's a compelling story. And it's not just Fort Worth and Dallas. We got the Texas overall. If you look at Austin, community is really driving from a technology standpoint. Houston's still got an energy sector, but they're starting to diversify in that marketplace. So anyway, if you're a business development company, salesperson, sales strategy, and you don't love the Texas market, something's wrong, because it is phenomenal based on my 30 years of work in sales across the country. It's unbelievable that what's.
I'll put it in perspective. I like context, and I've got kind of the second point on here. Over these next 10 years, we're going to add 1.7 million people to North Texas, and that's equivalent or more than the whole city or DMA of designated metro area of Oklahoma City. So we're going to create a new Oklahoma City, happens to be in our metroplex. So to your point, well, how do we grab as much as we can from an economic standpoint and go forward? And I love, the variety of industries we have in this market. That's a big deal. So we're not hit as much, and that was a nice thing. What I love, and you had said this to me earlier, Kyle, again, we've got some of the brightest and smartest people in all the world right here in North Texas. But end of the day, despite that, we don't have a clue what's about to happen, as we go forward. Basically, who can forecast what's going to happen with this whole COVID over the next weeks, months, years, where that's going to go? And I think that's the biggest challenge that we're seeing. So that's what I hope today we can address. What are some of those small wins we're seeing? Where are we seeing people preparing for the breakthrough that's got to happen and will happen as we go forward? But this is real. as we go forward. Again, we can have all this great things. Again, we are so blessed versus other parts of the country. I think our collaboration within this marketplace, especially in the, North Texas and the Tarrant County side, I think we do great stuff together because we're willing to work together and do stuff. And I think that really bodes well. But again, having said all that, we need that because we got to lean on each other because nobody really has the answer as we go forward, because we're all trying to figure out how we're going to generate revenues. In theory, it sounds good. We can have a lot of stuff, but we've got gaps to make up. So there's going to be some real, pit holes that we got to figure out how we're going to make up and go forward in that way. And that's why I was excited with, with Kyle coming on and really just the access to a PwC within, what they do. And just people think them as a kind of an audit company. But you guys do so much really in the consultancy services and your professional services company. I saw this, Kyle, you shared it with me again, 100 analysts have said, you guys are pretty good at what you do. I mean, that's the industry saying yes. What does that really mean for folks that don't track kind of what you guys are doing? What does that really mean in layman's terms?
Well, I mean, I think my perspective is a big enterprise. So as you start to develop relationships, understanding the business, an organization that has a breadth of services like we offer allows you to be more effective in solving problems for our clients, right? Our mission is strategy through execution and to solve companies' most compelling issues. So the breadth of my service offerings allows us to be more impactful around the organization and bring resources. And the interesting thing, Kevin, is the growth that we've experienced really happened post the last financial crisis that we had. As we all came out of that, PwC was traditionally known as a tax and an audit type of company, but we grew through acquisitions, we grew through opportunities, and we grew through relevancy to the business. And so you start bringing in a strategy company like Booz, technology companies like Bearing Point. So it was really a growth strategy. But again, why I love it and why I think it's important to this group here, it gives you an opportunity to spread out. And most transformations, most big initiatives that you see, really pull from so many different areas. It's not you can't just sell to one group. It's really kind of a cross-functional, cross-enterprise type opportunity. It only includes technology. There's a people side of the house, the human-centered design element. There's processes. There's regulatory lenses. All of those factors, kind of drive into how a company transform. And again, to your point of this whole thing, every single company is trying to figure it out right now. Nobody knows. There's not a single company that really knows. We're not all lucky like, Bezos at Amazon. I saw this week, his net worth went up by $13 billion. So he's figured it out personally in his company. So there are industries that are thriving in this, but I think every company out here, everybody listening on this webcast is sitting back going, I'm not sure what to do or when we're going to come out of this, when it's going to end. And so that's why I think the idea of coming up with some strategies, and again, I'm a pure sales guy at heart. So, what are the little things that we can do to make a difference in moving companies forward in this environment?
As we move forward, you're chairman for PwC, kind of walking through this COVID world. And again, you guys are taking a lead. And I like the word probably restart in there. I've heard reboot, I've heard pivot, I've heard shift. Again, let's focus it as a restart. No matter what's going on, it's a restart as we go forward in so many ways. At the grand scale that you're dealing with, and what I want to focus on today from my perspective and those listening is, I'm with the local embassy suites here. I've got certain things. How am I a part of the conversation? How is this going to impact me? Because everyone's being severely impacted as we go forward. And one that's being impacted in your world, Kyle, and it impacts us here in Tarrant County tremendously. It's probably our largest employer. And it's, again, a company you deal with. And again, they're a public company, so not sharing anything that wouldn't be appropriate. But again, our friends at American Airlines. That industry, the travel industry, is absolutely taking a beating, and it's hard. Bezos is making a lot of money and a lot of folks aren't making money. So a lot in between. And you shared a little tidbit with me as far as the top airlines and just showing how to put this in perspective. What was that, the figure there you told me about, Kyle, with the top 6 airlines?
Yeah, the market value of the top 6 airlines combined is less than Zoom's market value. Zoom, the technology we're using to do this webcast. But I mean, you look at American Airlines, $42 billion company, Delta, United, Southwest. I mean, these are billions and billions of dollars worth of revenue, and their market value is less than the combined of a new technology that's coming up. And so again, beauty of having multiple industries in Dallas, Fort Worth areas that you can start to focus on industries that are growing. Obviously, American's the largest employer in Fort Worth. It's core. We all know it. We all love it. Doug, Derek, Robert, the leadership, outstanding people. Just been punched in the face, Kevin. It's unbelievable. It's all about recovery. When is the demand going to come back? I think everybody has read in the papers over the last couple of months that the recovery was starting. They were starting to get some revenue coming back, and they're going through some layoffs, or not layoffs. They're asking people to retire early. There's potential furloughs. Everything was starting to trend up, and then all of a sudden you get hit again with the wave hitting the South for the first time and really impacting us. But it's completely changing their organization. They've got to look differently. So again, to Bob's point in his note a minute ago, they have to restart. They have to look. They're going to look different coming out of this. And I think you look at guidance from a lot of the analysts. And again, tomorrow's their earnings call, so I'll be a lot smarter after tomorrow morning at 7:30 when Doug gets on and tells us all what's going on. But your recovery map is not real solid. I mean, PwC did a survey of business travelers trying to figure out, because that's their most profitable segment. When is business traveler coming back? And there's no sight in when we're going to all start traveling again. We're not able. So again, how do you forecast? How do you, plan your routes and everything else when you really don't have any guidance on forecasts coming in? So, it's a challenge. Again, we all love them. They were, prior to March 15th, they were having the best year they'd ever have, right? 2019 was the best year. I mean, unbelievable success. The economy was booming. So, this virus that came in and hit us all is definitely impacting one of our favorite companies here in our area.
As we move forward, again, opportunity with, loss of opportunity with Americans, some opportunity for others, Zoom-based and other things. Moving on, I think, Kyle, the next thing that you brought up to me, which I really like, and every relationship is up for review. And that's put it nicely. It's up for grabs. I mean, every person is they put the pause on and said, I'm not sure I can do business. And it's a chance for new people to have conversations that maybe didn't have conversations before. But in essence, every relationship, it may be longstanding. I'm seeing, at least from, you're taking it from a macro, again, I'm seeing it really from a local basis, what we work with, TCU a lot, obviously national as well, but I'm going to take the local lens. I'm seeing the same things. Vendors that we've had for 10, 20 years, you open it up. You may not work with them again because you may not be able to. You don't know what's happening in that way. So that's one thing. It's either an opportunity or a threat, whatever you choose to make it in that way. One thing we do know, we're seeing increased traffic. When I say increased traffic, I mean, it's just people saying, how do I survive? Especially sales professionals. We're kind of pushed out there a little bit, say, hey, go generate something. And we're seeing this increase in traffic. It's not always good traffic, which concerns me. And I've seen a lot of stuff, especially whether it just turns into noise. Kind of like the image here that, from our Colonial, when we had full, everyone there. Obviously the young lady here in the middle, she stands out. How is that one email? How is it answered? Where are we coming, forward in that way? Because it's real. And Gino, the photographer on that, takes all this great stuff from the Colonial. So thank you. I use that for you, Gino, in that way. But, it's increased noise. And so it's hard to get through. I think people are more accessible is what I'm seeing, Kyle, and you can confirm that. But also I'm saying once you get to it, you better bring something with you. And we can talk about that. Obviously the challenges is to show up with real value as you go forward. As what you're seeing, is that kind of consistent with the relationships that you've got or the conversations you're having?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't stress the point more. Every American Airlines, we'll go back to, hundreds and hundreds of different suppliers. Every one of the suppliers is being questioned, evaluated, future, do they fit to the new model? How do you transform? So again, it's open. And the interesting thing, just like we're all getting together on Zoom, it is so easy to talk with executives now because their schedules have been disrupted. And when I say executives, one of my pet peeves that I've always had is working in sales forever. Everybody says you got to call the CEO, CFO, president, you got to call high. You don't have to. I mean, most broad enterprise organizations have budgetary processes that push those things down to a different level. There are, 400 or 500 people at American that have buying capabilities. Obviously, it's constrained now, but that gives you a lot of opportunity to broaden out, to reach out and talk to these folks and figure out what's going on. And the point that I got slapped with the other day was, if we're not, everybody else is. And so, Kevin, to your point, I think part of today is we need to help educate some folks on some good strategies to go back and talk to these folks, because your competitors are talking, your competitors are coming up with better ideas, different ideas. They're trying to bring value. They're leaning in. They're doing all the things that we need to do. So again, we can't just do what they do. We got to do it better, smarter, faster, and to make it different. But you're setting yourself, 2021 is being set up right now. You know, in a perfect world, things start to smooth back out. Life gets a little easier. We get past a lot of the George Floyd tragedy that goes on, and even the cities start to calm down. 2021 is when, as you look at it from a forecasting standpoint, these guys are going into budgeting cycles right now. You know, August, September, October, typically budgeting for 2021. So we got to be relevant right now and get in front of some of the key decision makers to figure out how we can help them in 2021. You got to do it now.
Yeah, so now there's a sense of urgency, and I think that's okay. We need it. We're ready for that. We've been sitting around, so no time for the timid, if you will. And to your point, these next 90, maybe 120 days, it's critical. We've all got to be real smart with what we do and not just reach out. And some of that noise I talked about earlier, and I was reading out, I spent a lot of time with clients, and I'll see what people, how they're soliciting them, just like you see at American Airlines and other companies, Kyle. You know, there's normal in it for a sales leader or a business leader. There's a lot of touch points, a lot of time building relationships, still the right strategy, but you still got to come with value. It can't be, hey, Kyle, good to see you. Boy, I hope everything at American's all right. Good luck when, you know, we've got some stuff that you really need to look at when you get a chance. No, I mean, show up with something that makes, you know, your life easier, better, something, you know, you got to bring some value, because it's just our normal touch points within a very relational business. And probably most people on this call are in kind of the relational business. It's been hard to adjust of how we develop those relationships. But I think the content, just leaning into it, that's probably going to be one of the strategies we're going to present to you in a minute. Again, these five strategies we're seeing that seem to have a little bit of attraction in the marketplace as we go forward in that way. Hey, I want to stop real quick here. And Julia, as far as I know, we had some questions from the membership before we started. Also, is there something there, you know, since we've started, maybe to make sure we're heading down the right path? We're just kind of setting the tone right now, obviously, till we jump into some things. But observations, anything come to mind that can help us out a little bit?
Sure. I think you guys are definitely on the right path, because one of our questions is about wanting to pursue new business, but how do you build those relationships? How do you gain the trust without being able to meet face to face? Because it's such a different dynamic, right, in a virtual world. So if it were up to you, Kevin, and you, Kyle, what would be your approach if you were, you know, approaching a new client and wanted to get their business?
Kyle, you want to start, or I'll jump in?
I'll start. Just and again, my perspective, maybe from an enterprise level, a new client to me might be another division within our organization, as opposed to a new client. So again, we traditionally go after the Fortune 500, so we have relationships with everywhere. You know, part of the easiest way to get in to start to look at other opportunities within the organization is leveraging the relationships that you currently have for introductions, leveraging your alumni database. Obviously, these big companies, a company like PwC has a lot of alumni that come out. We employ about 3,000 people here locally, so we start to spread out. And then there's lots of online tools just to see what other connection points, relevant points that you might be able to find, different associations that you're involved with, university associations, all the typical salesy stuff that we all know that we're going to. You got to kind of draw back on that. The others, I think we'll get into this later, and I'll wait to kind of talk about that, is when you start to look at the customer, like Kevin was talking about value, we got to come with value. I think once you understand what your value proposition is, your customer base becomes more obvious, right? So if you understand what real value you can bring in this time period, then I think then you can start to figure out which clients might be the most appropriate, which makes it easier for you to come up with a compelling introduction to talk to somebody. So anyway, Kevin, your thoughts on maybe a different perspective on?
Yeah, you know, I love the, you know, we're so smart now as far as knowing everybody, Julie, and as we look at this, The sales navigator, the Salesforce. I mean, we're kind of getting smarter and smarter of our just different people in the marketplace. I'm a big fan of things like give to get. How can I come with some strategy, not strategy, but really research? Let's say it's about growth that, is important to you from an events leader within that. What if I come, hey, Julie, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I saw this research on, cities are doing X, Y, Z. I don't know if this is consistent or not with Fort Worth, but I want to share that with you and then talk a little bit about some things we're doing and just to see kind of that give to get. And there's kind of, we feel obligated sometimes when someone's doing this, assuming we can get those calls. I am seeing, you got to pick up the phone, people. You got to make that happen. This world, let me just send a bunch of emails. The noise is too much. You've almost got to find a way to, how do we have a face-to-face conversation? And to Kyle's point, maybe it's through a shared loyalty group or something. We got to find a way to have conversations. They can happen. We can still see introductory emails, but still, how do we have those conversations to get that face-to-face as we get forward? So new people, it's just more challenging, but it's very doable because people are open to it. We're getting access to more people than ever before. So I think if you're going to do it, you can do it right now.
Sure.
One other question, and we'll jump back in if you've got it.
Oh yeah, I do. So to drill down a little more into this, because Kyle, you mentioned the online resource, the etiquette. What are the do's and don'ts if you're going to reach out to someone virtually, let's say through LinkedIn? You can't find a connection that you have to them. You don't have any real ties, but you see a business opportunity. What are some of the things you should do, and what are some of the things that you should not?
That's good question. Goes back to the basics of sales. I think Kevin's introduction of me was done for a reason. Part of the hard thing about selling is that you don't want to kind of self-promote, so you try to figure out how do you reference a analysis to be able to show that you have some relevancy in this space. So again, Kevin listed in Gartner Group, we're the #1 consulting company worldwide. If you drill down in that, we're a leader in the quadrant of sales and marketing, right? And we do a lot of Salesforce implementation work as a company. And so you start to look at, drill down type of outside influences to be able to validate who you are. I guess if you can't find a person, a relationship, an alumni, and you have no connections, which is hard. You need to start building your connection base. You start to look at third parties, customer research, and other data that might be relevant to that particular person. And so you're not really selling yourself specifically, you're really selling kind of what the industry is saying that maybe he should talk to us. That's just one strategy. Kevin, thoughts on additional strategies there?
No, I think that's it. And I think we're going to probably talk a little bit more about it, Julie, as we get into the kind of the 5 strategies here. So we'll go head back. In fact, let's just jump right into the 5 strategies, looking at time, seeing how we're doing. 2:35. Okay, we'll pick up the pace for everybody. Thank you, Julie, for those questions as we go forward. So again, we're being more aggressive. How are we kind of losing the timidness or doing what we've always done? We can't just send, maybe it's a new category. Hey, good to hear from you, but I'm sending the same brochure. You got to be smart with what you're doing as we go forward. So here's 5 strategies that we'd like to focus on that we're kind of seeing that work within a difference maker. Obviously, I use Coach P. Got to have some kind of Frog Nation, showing something. Maybe it's his little index cards that he always has. Maybe there's some secret on there. But these are some secrets that Kyle's seeing from the macro perspective. I'm seeing from the macro, but also on a local basis across the board as we go forward in that way. And number 1 is something that I thought I knew a lot about until I've kind of drilled down with some partners and other things this past year. It's really called sales enablement, or enabling our sales function or force to really have effective buying conversations across the board. We want to dig into that. What does that mean, whether you've got a small company and team or you've got a large enterprise level sales force as you go forward, I think is a real key thing as we move forward. I think every person on this call has got to be prepared. You have to be. What's the pricing conversation? It's just going to happen. You got to have a strategy. How do you prioritize that? Kyle's got some interesting data and stats from 2008. How do we look at historical? What's our pricing today, or at least how we do it? There's not quite the volatility with some industries or products, but every one of us is going to have to answer that question effectively as we go forward. I think now more than ever, we got to lean into our strengths. Clarity within that. We're doing a lot of things in the marketplace. What do we do really well? so we can build real depth and get that. And again, there's some ways, and that's back to how do we introduce ourselves to somebody new. We got to call, we got to have our trump card in the hand where it's just our best card. What do we bring as we're going to make a difference within that? Something then that Kyle does and PwC does at the enterprise level really well, and it may or may not apply to us directly, but I think there's some good strategies. There's really an alliance strategy of sorts. We can't be great at everything, so where do we come in and kind of fill that gap? So if we got 2 or 3 things we do well, who are the other 2, 3 people we need to bring? So we're bringing a really a thoughtful, integrated solution to our prospects that we're making their life easier because that's what they need. They're scrambling to survive just like the rest of us. And then how do we use technology? I think it's one of those things, it's the greatest thing in the world, and it's also can be a crutch and a hindrance. What is it? I love the way PwC has approached it. It's not necessarily Salesforce and LinkedIn. We're talking artificial intelligence. We're talking drones, we're talking machine learning and blockchain. These are things that every company is trying to figure out right now. So how can we, even though our product may not be that, we have to understand our customers are going through that transformation. So how can we fit within that, enhance what they're doing as we go forward? So, these are the areas that we are seeing as important. And starting out, as I mentioned, kind of the sales enablement of what that is. Sales enablement, in fact, I'm gonna go to this next slide and what is sales enablement? And here's Forrester as a definition of it, because my background is sales, but it's also marketing. So this is the first kind of discipline that I've seen that really marries the two very well. Instead of saying, oh, that's a sales issue, that's a marketing side, this is a us side. Sales enablement brings it all together. How are we creating these ongoing processes and systems that we're putting in place so that we can have the right conversations at the right time with our stakeholders, with internal and external as we go forward in that way. In fact, that was Forrester, a little vague if you're not in the industry. And I like this first line here, which was further in an article that was from this Forrester posting. Sales enablement strategically aligns people, processes, and technology to achieve bigger deals and greater volume. We're company leaders, we're sales professionals. That's our job. How do we achieve bigger deals in greater volume? We've got to be more efficient at that. So the practice means removing these barriers. How do we go forward that sales and marketing are the same? We're surfacing the right content at the right time, that we've got the right, interaction for our buyers, that we're truly helping them solve the problem. So, sales enablement in a world that we're in today is absolutely critical, because we got to spend these next 90 to 120 days to make sure we're figuring that out, because the market's going to break at some point. And we've got to be prepared, because we can't just fake it. We can't just go, hey, we're just going to turn on a switch as we go forward. And moving that
Kevin,
Yep.
Kevin, and just to validate Kevin's point, that PwC, this whole return to work issue that we're going, everybody had to leave their office, and now everybody's starting to think, how do we return back to the office? Everybody's heard the contact tracing type applications. PwC had an issue with, or we developed a solution for a company to be able to do automatic contact tracing with their employees to get them back to work. Everybody's got to do it. So we just automated the processes through your iPhones, and a fantastic solution. I think to Kevin's point, we had to get that out to the clients. We had to introduce it to our salespeople and our 55,000 people. So how do you enable that process where you can get the right tools, the right talking points, the right pricing, and everything done in a relatively quick time to get to market? And if you don't have these processes or this enablement process in place, you're going to be doing it ad hoc, and it's going to take you too much time. Again, sometimes it's just speed to market is what you need to take advantage of. This is a perfect one to be able to put something in the market quickly, figure out if it's working, adjust, continue to grow, get customer insights. I mean, it's a great kind of holistic system to continue to roll out different solutions, see how they work, build on them going from there. So great solution, Kevin.
Like the solution, again, there's simplicity to it. It's a process, and it's really kind of modernizing it, because we've got the technology to feed into this, and you guys are kind of strategy led. Now you're a real product, and so it's a different features and benefits versus here's the overall solution. So you guys weren't set up to roll out a product like that, so you had to do it. But I think the same thing works for a local restaurant, real estate company, bank. Again, what's the process that you have in place that enables you to satisfy the people right in front of you. We got to do a better job. We got choppy waters in front of us. We got to make sure we're able to connect and take advantage of all those little things that make us good at what we do. And the second point on here that I'm seeing a lot of, and some clients I'm working with, is transitioning a lot of our doers into sellers. So essentially a lot of frontline people who don't perceive themselves as a seller, end of the day, they're representing the company. They know the product. They know how to satisfy the end user probably as well as anybody. So how do we empower and enable them to be more part of this process? And I'm seeing some very intentional transitional programs by companies in this transitioning doers to sellers, if you will, because what happens, you know, think about it, and we've all probably heard it in our companies, oh, that's sales responsibility. Oh, that's marketing. That's, you know, we silo ourselves. Quit it. You know, we're companies. We've got to work as a unified unit, just like we have to work as a unified community around the chamber and Fort Worth and Tarrant County. What that means in North Texas, you know, we got some great things here. We can be very opportunistic and do some things, but we got to figure out how to work together. And so it's collaborative in that way, but we got to empower everybody that they know how to solve the problem. So essentially, I even look at, you know, university. I've got fellow professors who are, you know, fabulous and have great relationships. And I go, have you thought about bringing them in for either some advancement purposes or something else? And they go, well, no, why would I do that? What does that mean? Well, come on. It's, you know, how do we give them the right tools? It's a simple PDF. And then if that happens, here's a second stage. It's just all this process that you put in place that it just makes it easy for them. So I'm not selling anything. I'm just able to kind of solve the problem and kind of move forward in that way as you go. I see Chris has jumped on. So, you know what, your cannonball competition is, you know, about to happen. So you're trying to rush us along here. What do we need to do, Chris?
I just got back from the pool on my social. No, I on this whole thing, we had a couple of questions that came in.
Yes.
And I think we're hinting on it, but and maybe we've answered their questions, but I just kind of want to stay on this for a second because
Sure.
I see it in my own industry right now. For what I do for economic development, it's client facing, it's communicating with the clients, it's communicating with the consultants. We get on Zoom calls, we get on WebExes, and I've been on several Zoom calls. We have consultants and economic developers from around the country. And we have some dialogue, but there's 50 people on the call. How do you set yourself apart? You know, there's a lot of that Zoom fatigue with that. And then there was a show that, or a consultant forum I was supposed to go to that I just learned here yesterday that we won't be doing that, which is perfectly fine. Yep. But do we do it virtually? Do we not? How do you separate yourself when there's 50 people in the room? And we even have this challenge with our own members and our business after hours and people wanting to network with each other. How do you make that connection virtually to somebody who might be a potential client for you? I know there's break rooms and things like that, but you know, is there a best practice out there on how to set yourself apart and make connections with people that maybe you don't know at this point?
I'll start us off, and Chris, we're seeing that a lot, and I think let's ask the hard question. If we've got 50 people on a Zoom call, how many relationships are we really going to make out of that? You know, it's a hard conversation. I mean, we're looking just at a postage stamp of anybody. You know, I've got a slide up. You guys can't see my face. We're visual learners. You know, seeing my facial expression, seeing what I do, see how I do it. It's hard when you got 50 people. One of the things I've seen, Chris, is just we got to break that down into bite-sized chunks. So how do we have a conversation with maybe 10 of those people beforehand? We solve problems that when we hit a bigger meeting of 50, our job is not to solve the problem at that time. We've had the right conversations before. And so a sales enablement process allows us to have multiple touch points that have been very intentional that we go, hey, this group, this is going to be their key issue. How do we make sure we're solving that for them? Because they may get on that call, 10 of them, they're just bored to tears going, really? Do I have to be here? Do I have to do this stuff? We're wasting so many people's time because the more we get oftentimes, it's just like a meeting that we have face-to-face. Think how many of those we now look back and go, were we kind of dumb that we had those meetings and sat around and did nothing? Because it was, oh, this is our Monday meeting. Well, there's no agenda. There's no, you know, what are we trying to accomplish? Who needs to be there? Who doesn't need to be? So I guess strategy number one that I've seen for that specific issue is multiple touch points before you even get to a meeting of 50 people and expect to solve problems, because you're not, I don't care what you do, you're not going to be able to in that setting. Outside of just validation for what you've agreed to, maybe before or after, you've got some set touch points afterwards as well. So it's just, you got to create process as you go forward, at least what I'm seeing. And, you know, at the local level. Kyle, is that consistent with kind of the behaviors and the activities you're seeing?
Yeah, it's again, I guess one point, and it's kind of throws a curve at you, Chris, but there's never been a time when it has not been easier to introduce a specific expert into a conversation. So in my world, I have a global organization. All of a sudden, I'm on a Zoom call, something really relevant, and I can patch in my regulatory expert around the CARES Act for American Airlines and have him on the call for 15 minutes, as opposed to the alternative where he's either going to be on a call or I have to fly him in. So having access to everybody instantaneously really does bring value. So that's one thing. The other thing is, there's Kevin's point of a playbook and having content created. It's okay for somebody like me that's a salesperson to talk about all of our different solutions. But if I have the content from the actual expert that has done that, and I start to make that available to them as pre-work, follow-up work, I mean, you can supplement all these things so much more than you ever could, because this is their medium, right? So you got to be smart about the strategic things. And I think the interactions with Zooms have to be more personal, right? You know, people buy from people that they know, that they like, the relationship. So the Zooms, the meetings bring value, but you got to build some relationships. And if you have the value on the outside, that's how you can make it more long-term and strategic. So anyway,
I agree with you completely. And maybe I phrased it the wrong way. I go back to like our business after hours. Before we were in this state, we'd have a business after hours where we'd have 75 people in the room having a cocktail and everybody just mingling around. Yep. And same thing with like these events that I go to, they want to have a virtual mingling around. Well, how do you virtually mingle around with 75 people on a call? Now, a lot of that comes from, you know, the organization of that Zoom call and making sure maybe there are break rooms or different conversation topics and things like that. But again, you know, strategies of, hey, I'm company X, I want to talk to you folks about this, but we've got 10 other people in the room, the room with us. I mean, is there a way to help them frame that conversation, even though they're not the ones organizing the conversation, if that makes sense?
Kevin? Again, Chris, again, I like to say, yeah, strategy on that one. Again, I'm just getting back to it. I've seen very few effective situations with 50 to 75 people in it. I just have, you know, and it's just, let's just call it what it is. You know, it's just, I'm not sure how we do that, but we just got to break it down. And you talk about breakout groups, but longer period of time, different topics, different conversations. You know, there's an intimacy of, it's not about quality or the quantity, it's about the quality. And it just, at this time, I think the depth of relationship, we got to show humanity. We got to show empathy. You know, and if I've got some of the gatherings that are happening sometimes, you know, those are you kind of bouncing around and there's a point to them, and I get that. But I think, you know, maybe we have to change and shift our behavior at this time. My goal is to make 10 wonderful relationships instead of 100 acquaintances, you know, within that. And sometimes, and to me, that's a strategy that those 10 people may end up being more business to you than 100 ever thought about being. Yeah. Because, you know, because if I'm in the problem solving business, I have to have trust. Either Julie or you, Chris, you got to say, I trust Kevin that I like what he says. It seems to work out well. And I trust that we're going to get there. The trust only happens after really, it's not going to be one meeting. That's just one touch point. So I guess I still get back to, how do you continue to create multiple touch points? I personally have not seen real effectiveness for 50 to 75 gathering people in a social setting online. I haven't seen it yet. And
so Chris,
I agree.
I got one for you, Chris. Just throw it. So, and this is around a really relevant topic that everybody should be passionate about: diversity and inclusion. So obviously, every company is focused on that. We have a process where we have a series of 1-hour meetings with multiple D&I leaders at different companies. Obviously, Stephen Johnson over at American Airlines and others. So we bring things, but we have a purpose for the discussion. And so each one of the daily discussion creates value. And then once, whatever we've decided to talk about the first day, it might be your communication strategy internal, it might be events, it might be employee training, whatever they may be. It's a series of events that lead up to a culmination of discovery about what we decided. And so there's kind of a purpose beyond, or for everybody to get together, that builds to a end presentation. Is done Monday through Friday. They commit an hour on Friday. We all get together. We read out the results. Everybody's a little bit more in tune with what all these other companies are doing. And so there's a common purpose to being there. And so you might be able at the end of the time get 50 people on, all thinking about a common theme and building that. So maybe that's a curveball at you, Chris. Maybe there's got to be a purpose behind the get together, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to get together for a happy hour.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I think that if you are talking about very meaningful things, which we are right now, we're all experiencing this together. We're all, watching the world change before our eyes. And I think it is really a time when people can sit down and have more in-depth discussion than they have before. And I think even finding those outlets may be a great way to turn business relationships, a little deeper, just because it's a shared connection.
Yeah.
I just see people looking for empathy. They're looking for other humans to connect with, is what I'm
Right.
saying right now. Just end of the day, we're facing things we've never faced before. And so it is unusual circumstances, but I'm still seeing, end of the day, just a sense of humanity, kind of going, how do I connect with people I care about and others that I don't know in a D&I situation? So it's
Right.
it's a great situation.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, then I'll go back to the cannonball competition and let you guys get back to and I don't know whether it was Kevin or Kyle who said it, the pre-work and the post-work on some of these things is so much more crucial right now than it's ever been. And that's what I've been doing, is understanding who is going to be on these calls, seeing that attendee list, knowing what it is. Maybe there's a sidebar conversation, maybe there's something you can plug in, but then understanding who those relationships are after, and then connecting with them after, and then just trying to build that, because there is not going to be that face-to-face right now. And so I just didn't know if there was a lightning bolt out there that I wasn't missing, but you're right. In 50 people, I mean, it's so hard to make that personal connection.
Yep.
But I think that, Chris, the key on that one, it goes back to a sales playbook. Again, if you have content that's prepackaged, you're able to quickly respond afterwards with relevant topic. Everybody's on the same page. It's not a 40-page presentation. It's a 2-slide presentation. It's a video of your expert. It's a video of somebody that just moved to Fort Worth, their company, and had a great experience. It's got to all be queued up. You can't do it. You can't customize it every time. So that's why we're talking about enabling that process, just to be able to do the pre and post for that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want to be
Tangent now, and I'll let you guys get back to
Cannonball coming. Hey, Julie, if we're okay, we've got about probably 7 or 8, maybe 10 more minutes, if that's all right, time wise, then we'll get to that.
And what I might ask you guys to do, because
Yes.
we're getting a ton of questions,
Okay.
is we're going to post this on our Facebook page. And so what I will do is I'll ask some of the questions there. And
Okay.
if you guys later will hop in and answer some of those, because I just don't think we're going to get to all of them, but I think there's a lot of interest, and I think that'd be a great way for people to see and be able to hear your answers.
So perfect. Love to. I've got the time, and what I'd like to say is we'll finish up so that those that have to leave can leave, and then I can stay as long as we need. And I think Kyle's got a little bit of flexibility as well, so we can stay longer as we possibly can to answer in addition. Because again, these are, how do we generate revenues? We're all struggling. We got to have good conversation with good people, and so we love to see the questions and have that dialogue with the membership there.
Wonderful.
So thank you. All right, so give us again 7, 8, 9, 10 more minutes. We'll get, because we want to give you these 3 or 4 strategies we're seeing, so you can take back tomorrow. We can put them in play, and then see where we can go from there. Because it's a sense of urgency. We got to get started. And I love where Kyle set us up, and really the playbook, Julie. So if you got events, you've already got everything planned out. So every stakeholder, what you need to happen. in case we got the right prospect, the right time, let's have the right buying conversation as we go forward. It can't happen customized every time. You just can't keep up. You're just not going to be able to. And especially if we hit this breakthrough that may happen next month, next year, we don't know, but we got to be prepared. And one of the areas that I've seen beyond sales enablement, there's a group that we've got as a partner at TCU called DSG Consulting. Down the bottom right-hand corner, they're out of Little Rock, and they're a partner of ours, and I enjoy doing some work with them. That's all they do. It's a sales enablement company, and they're focused on this, and they do it well. And it's not about them coming in and solving problems for you. It's a platform that allows your people to create the content as you go forward. But you can anticipate things before they are an issue. And so you can really act quickly on opportunities, deal with threats that happen. And so this is a company that, what to say, what to do, what to show. You just take the guesswork out of it. So you got an experienced salesperson like Kyle, yet we've got somebody in front of house that is that doer now seller that could be equally as effective. We got to empower both of them so that as we can provide our customers with solutions as we go forward. And this is one group that this playbook approach, I'm a real big fan on. I've been spending a lot of time with. If you've got probably 50 to 100 sellers in your organization, you probably want to go up to the cloud-based playbook. If you've got less than that, there's strategies you put in place around, again, sales enablement. You probably can't go to this just yet. This was a program I know that worked with DSG, and they were around with Fiserv, which is the largest fintech company in the country out of Milwaukee. They integrated this to cross-sell across 9 business units to get a common theme, a common voice. And I know it was pushed out on a webinar. In the first 3 months after introducing this system, they increased sales pre-COVID, I get you, pre-COVID, 247%. Because people simply knew what they were supposed to share. They knew the value proposition. They could articulate it. So just know if this is an interest, this is something, again, we're leaning into at TCU. I'm personally leaning into it. But the playbooks are something that I think you need to look at from a sales enablement. You heard Kyle talk about it at PwC, or something all the way down to a smaller shop with only a few sellers. There's still things you can put in place to be effective as you go forward. Final thoughts on this, Kyle? Anything on the sales enablement?
No, I think it's you've hit it on the head.
Okay, keep it moving forward. Number 2, we're all going to hear it. Pricing. So how can we be smart about that? This could be an hour conversation right here that we're going to keep it tight and short. I know Kyle's got 4 or 5 different strategies that have come out of, we looked at historical from 2008. What happened when we had a downturn then? Again, people are asking for discounts. What are the lessons learned? Kyle, walk me through what you and I have talked about, just some of those interesting things we need to be aware of within a pricing conversation that everybody's going to have with our clients, no matter what they are.
Yeah, no, good question. Lesson learned is whatever you do is going to set a precedent going forward. So, hopefully everything recovers back. We go back to a strong economy. You're going to be left with some of the decisions that you'll make over the next 6 months about pricing. I got to say, every one of my clients in the Texas market is asking for some concession, pushing different things like that. So here's a couple of strategies, and I'm just going to blow through it. To Kevin's point, this is one of my favorite topics. Again, it's a differentiator in how you price things. Pricing's done based on the cost of something, not just that, but the value it brings, and what's the competition look like. There's so many things, there's so many levers and bundles you can bring. But again, the point is, whatever you do now it's gonna leave a lasting mark. I think here's a couple of quick things. I'm going to read them off to you, and then we can go on to the next one. As opposed to going to price, you should always go into scope of services. So that should be your first pushback to see if there's a smaller version of something that you can do. Don't immediately give in on price. Next thing is get something in exchange. It might be a relationship building opportunity, or an opportunity to do something else, or an opportunity to do something when the economy turns around, but that's the time for you to ask. You have to create a mutual understanding that you are giving a discount and that there's clarity about the discount. So don't just give in, and talk to them about that you're doing something. Going back to Kevin's point of empathy, we understand American Airlines situation, right? We're going to be, we understand, and we're going to try and enable you to survive. And so we're going to do some things that might help you in the short term, knowing that you understand it's a concession, and that we want something, or we would want something going forward. Simple little thing, don't give discounts in round numbers. All it makes it, hey, I'll give a 10% discount. Not precise at all. They know it's discount, it's not really, doesn't have an impact. Give them the precise amount of discount that you can do on this, 3.7%, and base it on something. So be as precise as you can. And then the biggest thing is, if you do give a price break, position something where there's an automatic snapback. So 6 month, here's your price for something at the, in January of 2021, it's automatically going to snap back unless we have a conversation prior to that. So very easy things to do that. I think another thing that's really interesting, Kevin, is who's asking for the discount. A lot of times it's procurement doing some lens where they're pushing it out saying, we're asking all of our suppliers for X, Y, Z. That's a different conversation than if Derek Kerr, CFO at American Airlines, calls me up and says, Kyle, help me out here. Completely different world. It's a great time for you to build a relationship with the executives. And so again, use it as a leverage point, know who's asking for the discount, and then respond appropriately, because whatever you do, it's gonna hang around for a little while.
Outstanding. Yeah, again, this is a topic, and I know even the way you structure the pricing, that's a topic you dig into well as Kyle, just the different models, retainer, usage, and there's different ways to structure it now. That is another strategy with this, and even payment terms. We've worked with a couple of companies, even at TCU, that are partners of ours, that, hey, let's pay this in 2020. Let's put a kicker that you're paying in the 2021 time frame, calendar year, just to be smart about it. And just, again, empathetic. How are we working with you as a partner? So it's not just a transactional conversation. How are we building that relationship so that we want to be around a long time, or at least have this relationship? And I think that's real key.
Yeah. The only scary thing about that, Kevin, is the company will pay they want to pay. So you can push it off and say, hey, pay in January, and they'll come back to you and say, no, I won't do it. But anyway, as an enterprise, it is what it is. So they're still the client when going forward. So
end of the day, have a strategy, whatever it is, so that everybody on the team is aware of what's going on, so that we're consistent with the delivery of that, is what I'm hearing, just to make sure we're all clear with that. So you can have some flexibility, but at least have some principles that you have before this, because everybody's asked for some kind of concession. Some are just doing it because that's their job. Others are, what's the real need, and can we provide that? It is going to have a lasting impact. So smart pricing is something we're seeing where you can have an impact and maybe pick up some business because you have that flexibility as you go forward. This one I liked. I'm seeing more and more companies. I know you got a couple of examples, Kyle. Just, we kind of get spread out sometimes. Our companies, I know we do at TCU and in the Neely School of Business. Sure, we can do that. Sure, we can do that. Is that our core strength? Really, are we good at that? These times, you got to lean into what you're really good at. What's the industry knowledge you've got back to give to get? How do we, someone we don't know, how are we providing real value, real insights beyond surface level chit chat? How's something that has some significance? So industry knowledge, customer insights, and then short and long-term value. Kyle, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, don't pitch something you're not good at. I mean, that's there, but since everything is up in the air, there's so much need for these executives to hear what's going on. Don't think that they have the perfect understanding of industry. They're curious about what others are doing in the industry. They're curious about what their customers are coming back with, and not just from their industry. An airline customer is similar to a hospitality customer, which is similar to a banking customer. So there's insights that you really can bring to the table. You just gotta be smart about it. And then it goes back to when you approach them, approach them with value. And a value can be looked at short-term, something that can solve an initial problem. The long-term value is maybe where I spend a lot of my time. How do companies transform within the organization? So don't just say, hey, are you going to transform? But go look and see how other industries and other companies have transformed. What have they done that you can bring to the table? So areas of strength and do that. That's again, that seems like a 101 type of thought process for a business development person, but don't just call them up to say, hey, that's the bad side of this discussion.
Yeah, that's been there. All right, so sales enablement, smart pricing, lean into strength. Number 4, really leverage alliances. Again, this can look like different for all of us that we have. It can be as simple as just getting different people together to really, how can we solve problems? Then there's the formalized structure for instance, I know with a PwC, Kyle, you guys lean into, the people and process side, you guys are pretty good at. The technology piece, you're not real good at that. Or I shouldn't say you're not good, but that's just not what your strength is. So kind of tell me what you're doing right now as far as within the alliance space.
Sure. And Julie, this kind of goes back to, if you kind of got a dead end, what do you do? So you go back and you start to look at who else is calling on your client. So if you look at, and again, it's not the only client, it's just irrelevant. It's the biggest Fort Worth client, American Airlines, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, they're all in there, right? They all have relationships. They're all trying to do their own transformation process. They're all going cloud with Azure. IBM's doing their Blue Mix stuff. So there is a perfect opportunity for us to reach out to our alliance people to see what are they seeing, what relationships do they have, what are the sticking points of what's going on. And again, PwC has formal relationships with these companies, so we're allowed to go to business together. But there's informal networks that people have. Again, if it's a big enterprise, there's going to be 1,000 suppliers that are calling into them. There's got to be a LinkedIn network that you can get to other people that are going after your particular client to see how they're having an impact. What are the impasses? What are they trying to do? What are the key initiatives that they heard about? All of these things, that's just information for you to be able to approach the organization. Again, it is such a big part of what we do. Kevin's point of us, we don't actually build technology. We're starting to get into the asset-based business now, and we do have apps that we sell, and we've got about 100 technology applications that we're getting into. But there's dominant. SAP, Oracle are the dominant players in the ERP space. Workday's dominant. Microsoft's dominant. I mean, these are just fantastic partners and alliances that you can approach. I have to assume any company that's selling something has their peer alliances as well that they could leverage to develop new relationships, get into new parts of the business, or look at new opportunities.
Hey, Julie, this could be, for us in the Fort Worth market and with the Fort Worth Chamber, again, how do we have a partnership party? So maybe we have someone that really talks about the intricacies of a partnership, what it takes to establish it, an alliance versus partnership versus, loose association versus whatever. Maybe we have someone present, and then we've got people that come from, again, the people side, process side, or technology side, back to that theme Kyle was talking about. How do we maybe give a little more? I know we're doing stuff like that already, but maybe this is the time we try to create something more like that as well.
I think it's a great idea because we've seen big corporations make those alliances, make those partnerships.
Yep.
We're now seeing small business do the same. And I don't think we've seen that as much in the past. Yep. Small businesses are looking, how can we partner? How can we do work together to really strengthen our brand and our value?
Yeah, and even if we don't formalize an alliance, it's just nice to talk to somebody that comes from a different space that, solving problems. It's a technology partner. Well, how did you, where's your focus? What do you do? Oh, if you do that, then I could probably do it. We need people around us. That's why I think these collaborative events that we've got with the chamber make a lot of sense. End of the day, trying to get the integrated solution, but again, how do we collaborate? And I think that's the role of the chamber and everything we're trying to do. So, how do we take this to the next level that aren't 50 to 75 people gatherings?
Right.
Whatever those look like. And it may be the right number, but now we've got a topic that could bring those type people together. Mm-hmm. Because maybe we've had as individuals, we've kind of created solutions. Now we're coming together. It's almost like an entrepreneurship competition that, technologists bid on different entrepreneurs. I want to work with you. And it's this collaborative environment that's kind of neat that maybe we explore that for, everyday products and services that we're seeing. We know we're trying to move here throughout the market. So, yeah. All right, one more thing, and then we'll turn it to you, Julie. So, last thing is we've got again emerging technology. We won't spend much time, but just we got to think about technology because every company is going through their own iteration of transforming. For what that means, they're trying to advance their business and scale their efforts. This is one of the most, amazing times of our lives as far as between now and the next, end of this decade. What's it going to look like? What was the number you had, Kyle, by 2030? What was something about?
On artificial intelligence alone is going to have a $14.7 trillion impact to the global economy, a $2.2 trillion impact on the U.S. economy, just through artificial intelligence, right? And Kevin, the point here is not trying to figure out how you can use this technology to get in, which again, that's so much job creation. Entrepreneurs are around this, but it's how these technologies are transforming the way a company is doing business. And you have got to figure out how you fit into that discussion. Automation Anywhere, UiPath, all the different automation stuff, they are transforming companies and taking the need for having people out. You have to understand that landscape. How is that changing, and how did your product, your service fit into that new mindset? Again, we're on a big upskill journey. We have a free application if anybody wants to be upskilled on all these new technologies. We think it's the fourth industrial revolutions. Companies in the next 10 years will look nothing like they look now. It's the most unbelievable thing I had. So if you're not diving in deep to these 8 foundational technologies, you're missing the boat. I mean, and your clients are diving into it. And what a great position to be in as a salesperson, to be somebody that brings that knowledge to the table and how those are affecting the airlines or whatever industry.
So the essential 8, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, drones, 3D printing,
blockchain, Internet of Things, robotics. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. As we go forward. Chris, quick question. Again, we got one more slide after this, and we're turning it over as far as question and going forward in that way. All good?
You guys go right ahead.
Perfect. All right, well, let's continue here, kind of emerging tech again. Call upon, again, we're here as a local resource. We've got a brand new sales center at TCU, and our mission is kind of built around how are we accelerating. Number one, the students, so that's our core business. We're in the key talent business, but it's more skill development now versus learning, and kind of helps along the talent acquisition. But what you'll see here, we're helping folks out in really a 10-year cycle. So when students come into the business school at 20, we're going to take them through their 30. So we want to work with you as they move into leadership. What's high potential programs look like? How can we be a service at TCU? Then that final point there, fostering community. And then again, this sales growth. We have access to a lot of research, a lot of conversations, a lot of people. How can we help the local community in ways that we're not doing it? That's why I'm here and why Kyle are here today. How do we just take some knowledge and things we're blessed to see about a community we care about in this North Texas and obviously Tarrant County and Fort Worth? I mean, how are we doing things that make some sense? So just know that's happening, whether it's something we're doing at TCU or back to the sales enablement, the partnership we've got with DSG. Ask us questions. Is that a resource for you? We'd love to be able to answer that question to see if it is, or maybe we know somebody that can help you. So connect with us. I believe our LinkedIns were sent out, can make some sense. If you want to connect in that way, we'll do our best to answer whatever questions. And we're learners every day. It's just, we wake up every day. How can we learn something that's going to advance what we're doing and what our partners are doing and moving that forward? Because at the end of the day, again, we're still blessed. We are in this North Texas corridor. It's thriving. So the relationships are now up to us as we put forward. We've got to be proactive, everybody. We cannot sit back, especially these next 90 to 120 days. This will set the tone for the next 12 to 18 months for us. We got to be aggressive and be smart and aggressive, not just go out there. And again, that's back to the noise. Just sending stuff and touch points don't work. Be human, bring empathy, and bring real value, whether that's research, whether that's a partner. Hey, Chris, I've got somebody I want you to meet that I think may be able to be a good resource for who. It's got to be somebody. Bring value as you go forward. Obviously, the 5 strategies that we kind of talked about, the sales enablement, pricing, lean into your core strength, the alliances, the emerging technology. And again, of those, just because it's the glue that puts it all together, it's the dashboard, the sales enablement. And again, that's just one that I'm seeing more and more value for. And again, it's you don't have a sales enablement strategy, you need one. Whether you're a small business and or you're a larger, small, medium size, or a larger enterprise, you got to have it. But leverage us just as you're leveraging the chamber. And we're kind of building the sales center. We just got it launched. We've got about 140 students in it. So we start getting some nice momentum, because I'm just going to say one final thing. 52% of all college graduates, no matter what your major, you're going into some kind of sales. You got to have customer facing experience. You got to be able to present yourself well. It's communication skills. It's bringing forth a value proposition. And so we're seeing that at the academic level. And so we're training our BIS majors, our supply chain majors, really what's this communication skill and sales ability, So whether you're trying to sell your an internal audience, external audience, or somebody else, it doesn't matter. You got to have the communication skills to be effective in today's environment, because robotics are going to take over everything, or just move out to the side. Still got to have people connecting with people to make things happen as we go forward. So again, on behalf of Kyle and myself, again, just thanks for what we got. How we doing? We went over. I apologize. So I'd have been, kicked out of class by my 21-year-old student saying, Mr. Smith, sorry, buddy, we got to go. So thank you for letting us continue the conversation. And hopefully, again, we've got some of these points that we can take to the office tomorrow and say, have we thought about, could we do? How do we reinvent what we're currently doing versus just trying to keep pushing uphill what we've always done?
Yeah. Now, I only almost muted you like 3 times, so it's fine.
Good. It's that's a clear strikeout if I'd have gotten the 3 mutes. So thank you.
This has been great. I took us on a tangent there a little bit, but I thought it was important for some of the questions we were being asked. We have a couple more questions, but since we're running late, what we're going to do is we're going to forward those over to you guys. And if you guys could, give us some insight on that, we'll get them over to the folks who had those questions or connect you directly with them. That would be fantastic. I would agree that last thing you said, at the end of the day, everybody's a salesperson. Everybody's I'm an engineer, I'm not a licensed engineer, but that's where I started my career,
Sure.
But look what I'm doing now. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's client facing in some level. And so these strategies are fantastic. And so this has been a great session. It really has. The only topped by our previous session about a month ago, where we had Raphael from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but yeah, I don't know how you can top that. So
That's good. That's a good point. You had Raphael, then you had Coach P and Nui. So it's kind of going,
That's true. We did.
Now you're going, now who are these 2 guys that are going to talk to us for an hour?
Brothers, yeah.
The Smith Bros. What's that all about? Is it the Jonas Brothers? No, the Smith Bros. So thank you for having the Smith Bros. We appreciate you.
No, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. This has been great. We'll connect with you guys. We'll get those questions over to you. And any last words from Kyle, Kevin, before we sign off here?
Kyle, what you got for us is, the Masters sign behind you. No golf in the world. You're on a Zoom call instead. So what do you got for us?
Nothing other than point out the obvious fact, Chris, that Kevin is my much older brother. That's not one. I think everybody's probably aware of that, but just wanted to make sure that was thrown out there.
Thing to say.
It's okay. He may be wiser, more attractive, but again, I'm still oldest. It doesn't matter. So who gets first dibs on stuff. It's just it's the way things work.
It's
within
good that good brother ribbing can still happen.
Gotta do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Kyle, thanks for joining. Hey, and so you're gonna send the questions, but Julie, did you have a place you wanted us to go to answer as well?
Yeah, I'd love to have them on Facebook so people can see. So I'll connect you guys there, and we'll have some follow-up. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Again, Chris, Cannonball, please want to see at least maybe some videos. I mean, instead of the rankings, let's just see some live action. Come on. People are all about video. It's just we connect more. So let's see some live action.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for all of your time this afternoon. Appreciate you coming on. And for everyone else out there, thank you for tuning in. Hope this has been valuable for you. If there's any content, obviously these will still be on our Facebook and on our website for you to download and watch into the future. But if there's any content or resources that you feel that we're missing and that we can get out to you and provide more of these webinars, do not hesitate to reach out to me directly, reach out to Julie, any of our staff. Tell us about that, because we want to make sure we're providing the right content to you to make you successful. So with that, gentlemen, Julie, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the afternoon, and we will talk to you soon.
Go Frogs.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.